for joining us for another episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and joining me in the studio today are two of our panelists who you know and love, recognize. It's been a while since you've been here.
Yes.
We've got Kelly and Chuck in the house today. And before we jump into their show and tells and your questions, let's have them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their specialty. So, Kelly, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Allsup. I am a horticulturist extraordinaire.
I like that. I like that.
No argument here.
Yes, I love all plants and all insects, and I'm super passionate about urban trees and beneficial insects and pollinators, but I love it all. I love growing fruits and vegetables. It is hard to have horticulture out of my life. When I chose horticulture as my major in college, I knew I was going the right way.
You knew it.
Because I loved it. I loved it from the beginning.
And you've brought some interesting critters on the show.
I love insects too.
And wasn't that a hissing cockroach?
Yes.
You brought us one day? Good times.
And the eastern leather grasshopper that bit me, that I just smiled through. It doesn't ever bite.
And then he waits till he's on TV and bite. All right, Chuck, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, I'm Chuck Voigt, and I was a vegetable and herb specialist in various departments at the University of Illinois for 27 plus years. Horticulture is where I started and where my heart was. Been retired now for these many years. I think it's coming up 7 years.
Congratulations.
Which is amazing.
Congrats.
How fast it goes once you're on the shelf. But I've managed to stay quite busy and
you stay busy with us a lot too.
Yeah.
So
I try.
We try to keep you.
The pandemic slowed me down a bit.
Yes.
But
now you guys knew each other before, right?
Yeah.
Before the show.
Kelly did a header into my greenhouse and survived.
Yeah, I ran a portion of the U of I greenhouse, and with that I supported teachers, and so I supported his class. Now, I wasn't able to take his class because his class was for non-majors, even though all the majors wanted to take your class.
Everybody wanted to be in Chuck's class.
Well, you could have taken it, just not for credit, or as an elective. Because I did have one hort major who took it as an elective. But
Oh, well, I already had my electives. But yeah, so
I would have said there's better ways to spend your electives in my class, but what do I know?
I couldn't remember if you guys, if you had ever been in Chuck's class, but I knew that there was a relationship there through.
What were you taking off the shade when you went
I was
through the glass?
my claim to fame is falling
Yes.
through the roof of a greenhouse.
Please, we have a few minutes.
So I was, they put, help me with the chemical. They put a sunscreen on the glass in the greenhouse.
It's like
on the
a
greenhouse,
whitewash, kind of a.
Okay.
and you do that in the spring, and then you spray a lye on it in the fall to get it to wash off because you want the full sun penetration during the winter. And I fell through the roof.
Fell through the roof.
Yes.
As she sits here with her arm in a sling.
I know.
Yikes. I thought you were kidding when you said that.
No,
That's a real story.
Because she survived it with fairly minimal damage, we can kind of smile about
Yes.
it. But it was
my.
when I heard Kelly fell through the roof of the greenhouse, I had
A gasp.
real.
Yes.
Clutched the
That was
pearls.
yes, as they say on Ghosts, the TV show. That was gasp worthy.
Yes.
Oh
But
my.
I tend to do that, sometimes I'm,
I didn't know that about you.
accident, just like, I just lost my balance and there it was.
Well, I'm glad we're all here to laugh about it
Yes,
today.
I will not be getting up on the
Those days are
the
over.
ladders
Gravity
anymore.
is pretty unforgiving sometimes.
I think once you get my age, you don't have to climb on ladders much.
No, that's you just ask one of the other students.
Just like
to do it,
you
yes.
do it.
Yes. So Chuck, we had a video a couple of weeks ago where you
Right.
showed us your broom corn, and now we get to see it in person.
Yes, here it is in person. I've brought it in before, but I try to grow it at least every few years to keep the seed viable and whatever. Although what I planted this year has been in the refrigerator since literally before I retired. So it's
Oh,
pretty
wow.
pretty long live seed, especially under good conditions. But you can you can see there you strip off the seeds and what's left is what you see in the classic broom, and this just happens to be.
Now, when you grow this out on the farm, do you grow this for ornamental? What's the purpose, I guess? Do you eat it? Do you use it? Do you look at it? Why does Chuck like broom corn?
Well, it's one of the things that I've tried to maintain over the years. I think I said on the show, Mrs. Louis Giorcos from Essex, Illinois. There was an article about me in the Kankakee paper, and it mentioned that I had over 100 potato varieties and showed pictures of them. And she really wanted one called Cowhorn, and brought me seed of this red-seeded and a black-seeded one that she and her husband had visited his brother, who still was living in Hungary, which is where he came from, and sent back these two. And she gave me those. I gave her potatoes. And I think we were both happy with the exchange.
The rest
and
is
so I just feel like I owe it to the plants to keep them going. And since I've gone to a smaller space, in the past when I was growing all over, I could isolate them enough to grow them both in the same year. So I grew this one this year. I'll grow the black one next year. And I've gotten it into seed savers as Hungarian red and Hungarian black broom corn. Dr. Hadley, when he had his breeding program for broom corn at the U of I, actually read about it or saw me with it, and he incorporated these into his breeding program. I don't know that that's going on anymore, but because of the history of brooms in Arcola, Illinois, I think that's how we got into that whole thing. So all of
those can be planted? Those are all seeds?
They're all, yes, it's an open pollinated variety. No other broom corns around it, so those seeds are absolutely true to type, and I've selected for longer straw and some of those things. Occasionally one wants to break out of the boot if they fall over and bend over, and I don't save seeds from those because that's not a real desirable characteristic. But Diane has used this in flower arranging. What she would do would take like a small part of this and either wrap it with floral tape or put it into something else, and then use it in smaller bits, because you have to have a pretty giant arrangement to use those there.
Sure.
Although Marty took some home last time, she's going to put it in her big outdoor thing that she had with all her prunings that she stuck in the pot. So
you're saying it's not the usual plant?
Well, unusual plants was kind of my signature.
Hey, as soon as she asked the question, I knew what your answer was. I knew it was going to be seed saving. Knew it was going to be seed saving.
Seed saving.
And it is a sorghum, so I think you could use them for bird seeds, or in a pinch, I think you could probably get some food value out of them if you wanted to grind it up and do whatever you need to do to prepare it. But basically,
did you say sorghum?
Yes.
What does that word mean?
Well, a sorghum.
A grain?
It's a grain.
Oh, okay, grain.
Like sometimes it's called Milo when they grow it commercially. It's grain sorghum. These aren't nearly as meaty as those are, because those have been selected for big, relatively big fat seeds and shorter plants. These are a little primitive in that they grow about 12 feet tall. And
that's what I was going to ask. I remember from the picture,
it's towering. I try to cut them off, maybe 3 or 4 feet from the top, and I have to reach up as high as I can to get to that. Sometimes I even have to shorten them up after I get them picked.
So brooms are no longer made out of this anymore,
yeah,
right?
They are.
They are. Huh.
They are.
Most of them? Or
I don't know what the percentage is, but you certainly can still get them. I know when my dad was in Lyons, the Lions would sell brooms as one of their money makers. I think there's still at least one broom maker working in Arcola.
Interesting.
The production moved. It started out like in Massachusetts and moved west because those soils were not ideal, or the growing season wasn't ideal. Went through the Midwest, moved into Mexico, and I think most of it now is grown not in the United States, but it certainly could be. And
So if you didn't take this, would it self-seed where it's at, and then it,
it would volunteer to some extent. And I know that there's a field weed called shattercane that looks vaguely like this, that gets into some fields, and I can see where a farmer might look at this and wonder. But so I did a very conscientious job of getting everything cut off of mine, even though I didn't need anywhere near as much as I produced for seed, just to have it not be a weed for me next year. But it's not a a noxious weed, but
gotcha. Now, if someone is interested, is this seed easy to find in catalogs or online, or do you
as
have
I said,
to hunt for
they're
it?
both available through Seed Savers Exchange. I also sent it out through that, and I know Seeds Bloom no longer exists, but I know they had it. And anytime I see either black or red seeded broom corn in a catalog, I kind of feel proud, because I think I'm the one who got that out there.
Oh.
So is Seed Savers free? You can get on and
Yes.
get
Yes.
free seed and be part of an exchange.
Probably have to create an account.
Yeah. They put out a catalog. For their first years, they didn't want to be a catalog, but then they saw how well other people were doing with their heirlooms, and so they started doing a catalog. And so certainly you can find these things in their catalog, and that's available online. To be in the exchange, I think you may have to get a membership to get access to the winter yearbook, which is where they have the thousands of things that the members grow and offer.
Now I'm on their website, very curious. So yeah, if you want to
Beautiful,
look into
beautiful catalog. I almost brought it today, but didn't.
exchange.seedsavers.org if you're looking for the website there. So okay, Kelly, we're gonna move to you. What'd you bring?
I brought a plant that, the holidays, I always want to give people plants because I want them to enjoy what I enjoy and give a little piece of myself. So this is one of the ones that I'm giving this year. It's called Tillandsia xerograph, and I've been growing this one in particular for a year. So they're epiphytes, which means that they grow in the crotch angles of trees, and they're used to having roots that dry out. Well, even though they have roots, these roots are not primarily how this plant takes up water, but it takes up water through the rain on it, and it collects in there. And you can even have a whole little ecosystem in there in the jungle, but you wouldn't really want to keep it in water in your house. So my house, I just put it in the sink, I sprinkle it with water and let it soak a little bit, and put maybe once a week, if that. I think you can overwater it. I think it does like some humidity, which is almost impossible in the Illinois home to create the kind of humidity that all these tropical houseplants you want. But ways to do that is to shove plants in close to each other. Usually we're all shoving them in front of a window, so that can help with the humidity. But I think it's a really easy plant to grow, and it's just like here.
So when you said watering, do you mean like it collects down
Yes,
in there?
yes.
Or, okay.
Yes, it collects in the water and absorbs through the leaves. And, a lot of epiphytes do that. Some like orchids, even though they still have those roots, those aerial roots, those white roots. It has a material called velamen on it, and it just collects the water. So usually the roots are mainly for support. Not that I can't get that root to take up water.
To keep it from blowing off the tree.
Yeah, I can put an orchid. I can actually take the soil off of orchids, put their roots in a glass of water and grow them in water like that, where the bottom of the root is just barely in the water.
Gotcha.
And
So if you did plant this in soil,
I would not plant it in soil.
but if you did, just for experimentation,
You wouldn't water it. I think you would rot the base off.
That's okay. That's what I was wondering. Would it survive?
I don't think so.
Interesting.
I think if you were to let it sit in water, I mean, you know, this, you could let it sit in water a little bit, but like if I were to let this sit in water, I'd have the water down. I don't have that other hand. I'd have the water, you know, down here, you know, not up on the base.
Gotcha.
Good job. So
Teamwork.
Now, can you split these? Can you?
no,
No,
they're
Okay.
not one of those that, you know,
And
where
they don't do offshoots like some of the other bromeliads?
I doubt you'll, you know, be as successful in getting it to do that.
Okay.
Even to get it to flower, I think we get them to flower sometimes. They're when you buy them in the industry, you flower. I just think it's a cool plant. Like
It's a really cool
It's
plant.
better than giving a cactus. Like, you know, we have like there's cool house plants and then there's not so cool house plants. So, you know, don't give them a peace lily. Peace lilies are difficult.
Yeah.
They have these, I think he taught me this, the fluoride or skirvin, you know, I get them mixed up. The fluoride in the water makes
She was listening.
makes the leaves, the tips of the leaves look ugly. And so you'll see people like cut the tips off of like spider plants or peace lilies. Don't even get those. Go out and get a beautiful fiddle leaf fig or
Those
a
are
ZZ
finicky.
plant.
I don't know if I'd be able to keep a fiddle leaf. All of my friends who have them have terrible luck, especially this time of year. Is it us?
Sun? Do you have enough sun?
They just always look so, wow.
Are you overwatering them?
Maybe. I don't own one. I'm just saying a lot of my friends have them and they're always very sad.
The number one thing, what is it? The people who are not plant people think the number one problem is underwatering plants. The people who are plant people know the number one problem with houseplants is overwatering them.
Overwatering.
You got to let them dry down. And you can't just stick your finger in the top of the soil and be like, oh, it's dry. You want to look at the entire root ball. Right? You want to look and make sure it's dry. Then water it.
Then give it a drink. Chuck's laughing.
I don't do that, and I feel guilty just hearing your accusation.
You can tell it's the greenhouse girl in me because
Yes.
that's what we did when I was growing plants in the greenhouse. I didn't look at the top. I looked at the roots. I was like, do I have healthy roots? Am I going to have healthy growth? And so if I don't have nice, healthy white roots, you're probably overwatering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted. So this guy, does it
back
need
to
a
him.
pot?
No.
Does it need much? Do you just set it on a shelf? Do you put it in?
You can put it
I've
anywhere
seen 'em in,
decorative.
like the, not terrariums, but yeah, like decorative little bowls.
Or a vase,
Yes.
you know, like a
Yes.
flower, or you know,
Put a little collar around the base of it to make it festive.
you know, Candace, my friend, she grows them in her kitchen window.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, I think they're very easy to grow, and if my two sisters can grow them, then
Ouch, two sisters.
I know they're actually both
I
pretty
hope we
good
don't
with
ruin
plants.
the Christmas surprise. Now you've told everyone this is what they're getting this year. So.
Oh, so they're not getting it. The friends are getting it this
gotcha,
year.
Gotcha.
Because they got this last year. This is one of them's last year. The other one has two of them, and she's been doing very well with it. And all she does is just puts it in the sink once a week.
There you go. Okay, I like it. All right, on to the rolling pin.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, our viewers may recall, those are available for adoption. The super derecho that went through the Midwest in 2020.
Yes.
It just flattened things out in Iowa, went across northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and even got into Michigan a little bit. 75-mile-an-hour winds, gusts above that. It was terrifying, and a walnut tree at the farm. You already associated me with walnuts. Went down. It had for years. It had had one side was dead, and it never could grow around that. So that side I think was very brittle, and the derecho came from a direction where it just hit that brittleness and just snapped it off. It was just a million pieces down at the bottom. It just tore it apart. Well, I salvaged some of that, and at the same time, my college roommate and singing partner, Gary Legwald up in Minneapolis, had gotten into making rolling pins. He's a lefse expert. If you know, lefse is like a Scandinavian tortilla made with potatoes and flour, and you roll them out. They're big, and so anyway, he decided he was gonna get into making these. So this is walnut, and you can see the wonderful grain in that. And so then pretty. If there's any tendency for it to crack, he's got an epoxy that he puts into the cracks that makes it look like you've inlaid turquoise. Oh. So I don't know if you can see one of those there. And as he was doing this one, they're supposed to be textured like the other one is, but the walnut was just so beautiful. He couldn't make himself.
Couldn't bring himself to do it.
He just made it smooth because it was just there's a good one. You can see the.
Roll that forward just a little bit. Okay. There we go. Perfect.
Right, and then the handles are. I think the handles are ash. But that's.
So how did you get this to him? Did you take him? Did he come and get it? I'm very curious about this.
He's originally from Dixon, the Dixon area, actually Amboy. And so he and his wife came down. They were visiting there. She had an ill sister, and so they just swung by the farm. And he was there in his Prius, and we're loading logs into the back, because they need to be like 20 inches long. And so we're loading those into the back of his Prius, and you know he took what he thought he could do without having the headlights pointing toward the sky, and took them up there, and then you know there's a bunch more drying in the barn for his next trip. He's been back once since then, but that's what that, and he makes the little stands for them as well.
What about the other one?
Well, this we've talked. Or I haven't talked, but certainly talk has been about the emerald ash borer.
Yes.
This is the main part of this is green ash, and we had a bunch of them that of course died. This is a tree that I actually climbed as a young fella. It was a weed that kind of came up in a fence row, so it was easy to kind of climb up the wires and get into where it was easy climbing. And this is the texture that the lefse rollers are supposed to have or usually have. And then you went the other way, this one, the walnut has ash handles, the ash has walnut handles. So
it's sentimental. Do you use these, or are these just?
I have to get a demonstration from him, because I'm not sure. It seems like they wrap something around this in addition to having this way. Plus this one, I'm not sure I could ever let dough touch it. It's just so smooth and gorgeous that it would be difficult.
Very nice.
And he's written 2 books on lefse, and goes around to all the church suppers and whatnot around Minnesota. And he sells a whole line of lefse stuff. So
wow. I always am a fan of gifts or keepsakes that have that sentimental value, like your climbing tree. That's priceless.
That's what got me into it. He wrote an article. He has a lefse newsletter about a woman in Iowa, and she and her family had this walnut tree that had been blown down by the same derecho. But theirs was even more intimate in that it had a swing in it, and a lot of happy family times associated with it. And she got a hold of him and said, "You think you could make lefse rolling pins out of this for us?" And so they sent a bunch of it up. I think he had somebody with like a kiln dryer, so they could do it faster, because some of what I have still isn't fully dry. You get a log this big,
Sure, sure.
it's like it only goes a few inches a year. But he made those for her. I think 5 for her and her 4
Everyone
siblings
got
or somebody.
one.
So
Very
everybody,
nice.
everybody got one. I'm hoping to get another species to him because I have 3 great nieces, and that would be nice because I
Yes.
can leave one to each great niece that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for bringing those in. Thank you for both of you. Thanks for coming in. And I want to share these. Donna, your sweet sister, who is just amazing. She's made me sweaters and hats and scarves and all kinds of stuff. She sent me a little goodie. I believe these are cinnamon hard candies. So thank you so much, Donna, for sending these. I got to hide them from my boys because they won't last long. Oh, very good. Very good. Thank you. Well, now my mouth is full. We have to end the show. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a question, you can send it in to us at yourgarden@gmail.com. Of course, you can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. And we will see you next time. Good night. We want to hear from you. What questions do you have for our panelists? Our email is yourgarden@gmail.com. You can also drop us a line on Facebook. Just search for Mid-American Gardener.